Okay, students, now we're going to look at making some power-ups. In comparison to what we've been doing recently, power-ups are quite easy. So we're going to start in our twin stick pawn. And I've opened up the gameplay variables here because a couple of the power-ups we can make are already built in. We have here the fire rate, aka how fast the character can fire, which is 0.1 or 10 a second, as well as the movement speed, which is set to 1,000. Both of these we can edit really easily. So I'm going to choose a spot in the event graph and come down and make a custom event. I'm going to call this one movement power-up. And from the movement power-up, I'm just going to take the movement speed and I'm going to set it to a higher number. So I know my default was 1,000. Let's say twice as fast, 2,000. Now, a speed power-up I may not want to last forever, so I'm going to go ahead and put in a delay. Likely, I would want to give it like a 30-second delay or a 10-second delay. I'm going to do 2 just for testing purposes. And then we need to set the movement speed back to what it was, which is 1,000. So to make a power-up, I already have here, I made an empty folder in my blueprint folder for power-ups. And I'm going to make a new blueprint actor. We don't have to get complicated. It's not going to have AI or anything. So it's just an actor. And I'm going to call it powerup_move. In this blueprint, I'm going to give it a, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and give it a sphere collision. Well, actually, this is just a sphere. Let's make it have some material. Yeah, bush will work. It'll look kind of cool. And I'll scale it down a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and add a collision of the sphere collision. And if I want to be really fancy, maybe I also add a rotating movement, just so that it spins in place. That'll be kind of nice. Let's see. Perfect. Now, in the event graph, this gets to be like the simplest thing we've ever done. We have our event actor begin overlap. We're just going to cast to the twin stick pawn, because that's what our player is. So if we overlap with this actor, and we are the twin stick pawn, as the twin stick pawn, we're just going to call that power-up, movement power-up custom event, and then we're going to destroy ourselves. That's it. Because we put all of our code in the twin stick pawn itself, this is all we need. So if I go ahead and put this movement power up out here and hit play, I should be able to, here you can see my basic speed. I grab this, suddenly I have this speed, and then 2 seconds later it goes back to normal. The same would be done for our fire rate. We could go into the twin stick pawn. I'm going to make a custom event. I'm going to call this fire speed power up. We're going to set the fire rate to, now the fire rate here, a lower number is better, so I'll double it to 0.05. This one, again, we probably want to have eventually turn off because it seems quite powerful. But again, you could decide on this for your own game. This is also how, if you have custom events like this, how you can call it where like, oh, you beat the boss and you steal his weapon and the weapon upgrades your weapon. It's however you want to visualize it in your game. I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate this guy and call him power up fire speed. All I would need to do here is change this so that it pulls out of as twin stick pawn, and I do fire speed, and we have fire speed power up. Reconnect it to destroy. If I want to go ahead and make it look different, I'll just have a different mesh here. What can we do to look good? I don't know, that's a weird one. Light stays skybox. cool. It'll have a tiny. No, let's do Chrome. That's fine. Compile. Go ahead and bring it out here. So this is my normal fire rate. And this is it on Powerup. Oh, we are not colliding. Double check our code. Vector begin overlap. Okay. So there's our faster fire rate. That one didn't seem to want to turn off again. Oh, because I have it set movement speed here. Always check your code. And so we'll have it set it back to 0.1. Now for something more complicated, the standard shooting more bullets. So let's look at the event graph code for when we shoot bullets. And this is the one that came with the code. And it's over here. It's fire shot. If I double click on it, it opens up the code we have to shoot. So this is the first thing it does. It checks to see if we can shoot. And over here is the fire rate. And over here is the sound. And here is where it spawns the projectile. Now this code gets our player's rotation and gets a rotate vector and the player's location, and then adds them together and makes a special transform that is where we spawn the transform of our projectile. Then we need a couple things here. The first is we need to have a branch because we're going to go ahead and pull some of this stuff out of the way. And the branch is where we're going to insert those extra bullets, because right now it fires one bullet and then it plays the sound and does stuff. So we want it to be right here. Now, what we actually want is for it to play the sound and do all this stuff on false. And on true, it's going to have a sequence, which is where we're going to sneak in our other bullets here. And I'm going to break this. But we'll have extra bullets, and then we will reconnect back here to play sound. It's going to be a little messy. And this condition that we've added here, this is what we want to promote to a variable. And that condition we're going to name extra bullets power up. And we'll come back to that guy. But right now it is set to true, which is good for us because it'll make this happen. Now what's important to look in here is the bit is the gun offset. So this is kind of like what we did with the boss, where we set a specific location that was where the bullet comes from. They're doing the same thing here, but with code. Now, if we look, this bullet offset is at x85. So I'm going to have paint here so we can talk about what we're going to do. Now, so if this is us, right, and x is up, so 85, right, is where our bullet offset is. Now, we want to have more bullets firing. Now, what we could do is add additional bullets to the left and right. So we could put one here and put one here. And those bullets would probably fire in straight right here. That's my understanding of what would probably work. Now, what's important here is this is at 85 because it's 8500 because this guy gets added and rotated to our existing self. So the extra ones, we would want a gun offset of 85 and then a Y of negative something, some number, negative Y, and also positive Y. And we are going to see how this works right now and then see if we need to make some changes to it based on their angle or based on other things. So I'm going to copy this whole spawn projectile code. this whole guy right here. I'm going to paste him down here at the bottom. Now these extra projectiles we have here that it's going to spawn, here's one here. And then I'm going to hit paste to get a whole second option here. And I'm going to connect it over here. We want to edit this gun offset. So I'm going to go ahead and say Y40. And in this one, we're going to say, oh, it's changing the whole, this is a variable. So we need a new gun offset variable, or at the very least, just a new vector. So let's see if I can just have a vector. Or actually, if we delete the gun offset, it will be right there. Here's our rotate vector. So again, it was 85. And I'm going to put 40 here. And for this one, again, I'm going to delete the gun offset. And then in here, we will do 85 and negative 40. Now, our Boolean is on, so this should just happen automatically. Let's compile. Don't see any errors. And let's see what happens if I shoot. Ah. Now what's interesting is so that bit works, but the two extra ones don't change with our rotation. So let's look at where gun offset is used in other places, because the gun offset is added to, oh, rotation from X vector. These need to connect to this guy. This guy right here, we need to drag from U. The direction needs to come down in here and connect to this rotation from X vector. It got disconnected. So let's drag that back in. And let's use some of the things they have here. We don't want lines going across our code. So what you do is you just put your line on here till it highlights and double click. And that gives me like a point that I can now pull off of. But also it means I can move it. At least I'm supposed to be able to move it. Right click to move? No. Let's undo that. And maybe I'll double click down here. That helped a little bit. Oh, you got to grab the actual little circle. And then I can move it so that this doesn't overlap all of our code. Let's try it now. There we go. All right. So you can play with where these bullets spawn by playing with these these gun offset numbers, right? In addition, if we wanted it to rotate out, I think what we would want to do is expose some of the numbers in here and add to them. So this is our rotation from the X vector. And if we wanted it to be slightly different, we would take this in vector and expose it in some way. Perhaps what we could do here is just like do a plus to add to it. So if I drag from here, there's no matching add function for rotator. Make rotator. Make transform. That's not going to do it. Can we break you? Can we? I wonder if there's a way to break the struct on that. Let's break this. So that has numbers there. So we can split it. If I break this here, can I split it here? I can. So I just kind of need a way to, I don't really want to split this one. It's going to make a transform based on this rotation. So here, we need this guy, but a way to edit it. Can I multiply you? Okay, I can multiply you by a number. I think that's really what we're looking for. What we just need to do is break rot into axes. There we go. And then we can split this pin and attach the X and the Y. Those are floats. Combine rotators, lerp rotator. Ah, there it is. Break rotator. That's the one we wanted. So your X rotation, probably fine. Your Y rotation, probably fine. It's our Z that we probably want to add to here or to subtract from. So we have this rotation. Let's see. Let's see if I can do this. Into there. Break. Split. And again, plug our X and our Y in. And our Z, my guess is that we probably want to add or subtract to it. So this is the guy we added to here. So let's also add here. We'll just say plus 10 degrees. And on this one, I'm going to still use a plus, but we're going to plus a -10 and pass that through. I have no idea how this is going to affect the spawn. Let's see. Apparently not at all, or we didn't add enough. I'm not quite sure. This is the existing rotation of us. If this sort of how much this affects it. Let's try like 45. This may not actually do anything. So it looks like it actually moved the spawn location by changing the Z. So perhaps what we actually need to mess with is this one, the rotation transform. In fact, it is probably this one right here, because that's where it's spawning. So I think I did it right here, but at the wrong place. Let's try to move this guy down. And break, 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 recombine, connect. So we're fixing what we did. Same deal, break, 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 recombine, and connect. And let's try it over here. Break, and split, and then this goes in here. And we'll try the 45 in our new Z. And same deal here. Break, split, and take these numbers up into here. All right. And there we go. Okay, and that angle we have there, that 45 that I had it on, is this number that we added right here. So if I make it closer to 25 on the negative and 25 here, they can fire at tighter angles. So it is complicated, I will admit, and I can help you with it. But this is how we would add it in. If you wanted to have, 5 instead of 3, you would do it 2 more times with different numbers and different rotate vector for our gun offset here. Now, we created this extra bullets power-up Boolean, so if you wanted another power-up for it, you would go to your event graph, come down here, and make a extra bullets power-up and have it turn on when you walk over the power-up that triggers that. And we would set it to false in that bit of the fire shot, and when it's set to false, it ignores this extra sequence here that fires the extra bullets and just goes straight across.